Wide receivers who get taken really high in the draft, I'm talking the first half dozen picks or so, they're usually easy projections as an X receiver, lined up on the outside, winning balls down the field with their size, their strength, and their speed. Wide receivers with that kind of athletic profile are so valuable. We saw guys like A.J. Brown transform the Eagles offense in one season. Same deal with the electric Tyreek Hill down in Miami. He totally raised the ceiling of that offense. Quentin Johnston seems to fit this description, leading many to believe that he's the overall wide receiver 1. But Johnston's draft stock is actually in a bit of a free fall. At the end of the college football season, he was considered to be a borderline top 10 pick. Now, you commonly see him mocked in the back half of the first round. Is this a classic case of overthinking it, or are there very real concerns with Johnston that could lead to him being a total bust? I take a look in this week's film review. The strengths are obvious, and I touched on them a little bit in the intro, but he is super athletic. Check out this catch at the combine. I mean, this looks like that fake DK Metcalf catch that went viral a few weeks ago where he jumped like 10 feet up in the air. But this one's real and happened. Hypothetically, this dude has an insane catch radius. He doesn't win in these jump ball situations maybe as much as you'd like to see, and I'll get into that, but the flashes are very tantalizing, and you cannot deny that he is the best size, weight, speed combination in the class. Johnston has the ability to take the top off a defense. He's a very long strider, eats up a lot of space quickly, and on this play, Michigan is bringing a big blitz. So he's on a safety one-on-one. That safety has inside leverage, and Johnston is running a big crosser, but Johnston just outruns him. The safety's a little bit late to flip his hips here. You can't make that kind of mistake against Johnston. He's easily outran, and this turns into a gigantic play. Here he is against Julius Brents. That's going to be a pretty highly drafted corner, and you can watch Johnston drive off that outside foot right there, and accelerate, flies right past Brents, creates separation early. Brents is maybe a little bit slow to get his hips around after Johnston leaves his frame, but again, you can't make that kind of mistake against Johnston. You're not going to be able to recover. It's going to fly right by you. I like this rep a lot because it shows off some of Johnston's positives and some of his negatives. The positive here is the release. He's versus man coverage, he's running a slant, he gets plenty of separation and makes the catch. Pretty good release here, stemming this thing outside, widening out that corner, and then you see him dip those hips, plant that outside foot in the ground, and smoothly cut inside. He's wide open. Now, my issue with this rep is something that I get frustrated with Johnston pretty frequently, is his plan after he catches the football. I think a lot of the top wide receivers in the league would just run straight ahead, burn the angle from number 9. There's no one in the middle of the field. Just run, score. But Johnston always wants to put a move on people. He always wants to slow up, fake someone out, break their ankles. He continually stops and tries to change direction when there are times where I don't think he needs to. And maybe he's just not as explosive as some of the guys that I listed, and he can't burn that angle. He's athletic, but he's not like a superstar athlete in my opinion. But I do think that he'd be better served just running straight ahead here. Instead, he comes to a full stop, tries to make this guy miss, and gets tackled when this could have been a touchdown.
And I think that's where my game took a jump. I would have got at this point right here and tried to put a move or
and slow
to my feet.
Maybe the pursuit gets you if you kind of shuffle.
But it's no false movements. Just go and just run past it.
There are so many times where he catches the ball and I'm like, just fucking go, get upfield. But he's always trying to put a move on somebody. He's always trying to juke somebody out. And it works a lot of the time, but a lot of the time it doesn't work. And sometimes I think he could be better served just like getting downhill as fast as possible instead of always squaring guys up and taking false steps. Here's another example. At the bottom of the screen is Johnston. There's a blown coverage. The corner blitzes. No one takes him. He catches it wide open with only the safety to beat on the way to the end zone. Just don't tackle yourself. Tackling in the open field is very hard for this guy. You can either try to win around the edge, win the angle, or you can do something subtle, change your path inside, force him to redirect at the last moment. Maybe you can't make that tackle. Don't tackle yourself, which is kind of what Johnston does here. He tries to really set him up and hit a very severe dead leg right here and spin. Difficult move to pull off when this probably doesn't require such extreme measures to beat a safety in the open field. But that's what he tries. He tries to hit this ridiculous move when I just don't think that's what's required in this situation, and he goes down. Here's an example of what I would like to see Johnston do a bit more. I'm going to use Jalen Waddle running free up the sideline. He's going to try to make Jair Alexander, the defensive back coming up over the top, miss. And his hips keep moving upfield. He's not really committing to a fake here. He's just subtly rocking, changing direction, forcing Jair Alexander to readjust his path. He can't do it. And Waddle burns him up. I'd like to see Johnston do this a bit more. And I don't want to paint Johnston as like this bad yards after catch guy. He had more yards after the catch than basically anybody else in college football this year. He did this a lot by knowing where defensive backs were when he had his back to them. There were so many times this season where he'd make a catch, he would jump, and a lot of people don't like when you jump when you don't have to. But I think that similar to Garrett Wilson, Johnston would do this so he could really come down and drive quickly because he knew where that guy behind him was, and he'd pirouette and shake that first defender. He did this all the time, especially in this game versus Kansas. Here's a good yards after catch moment in the college football playoff. He catches this throw from Duggan, open on a drag. He sizes up his opponent here, varies his steps, right? He's taking kind of some high steps here, and the defensive back doesn't quite know what to do with this. He doesn't take the correct angle, and then Johnston just accelerates by him, and he's off to the races. I think this play does a pretty good job illustrating the type of player that he is. So he does a great job here, catching this ball, feeling the defender around him, driving off that inside foot, pirouetting, making this guy miss. Now, Waddle is gone in this situation. Okay, there's a lot of the top yak guys are not getting caught by number 3, the KU safety. But Johnston isn't quite an A+++ top-end speed explosion guy. He may need to put those moves on people because he's not going to always burn the angle. He's fast, but he's not one of the fastest. It's not quite suicide to leave him one-on-one man coverage with no safety help over the top. Is it a great idea? No, but is he going to burn you every time? Also, no. You may not be able to recover if you make a mistake, but if you play the technique right, you'll probably be able to keep up with Quentin Johnston if you're an NFL athlete. And I wish that Johnston would do more at the top of routes to either sell outside with some steps that way or head fakes that get corners out of position. Instead, he just kind of runs these routes and guys are able to kind of catch up with him or stay on him. I do wish that Johnston was a bit more of a route salesman at the breaking point of these things. He does need work as a route runner. First of all, he doesn't run that many different routes. There's a lot of goes. There's a lot of curls off of those goes. There's a lot of deep crossers and drags is like mostly what you're looking at. And on the routes that he is comfortable running or is asked to run, he makes mistakes. Like when he gets off the ball here, his back is pretty flat. He is selling vertically, but as the breaking point comes, his back totally straightens out. And that clues in this defensive back that he is changing directions. So there's a bunch of steps at the top of this thing, not really an efficient turnaround here on this comeback, and the defensive back is able to drive off that back foot. He's never really threatened vertically here, and he's able to take away this option pretty easily. That's something I think I notice pretty consistently with him is the body language right before the break tends to give away when that break is coming. But those are technical things. He could hypothetically get better in that area. He is a pretty sudden mover for a guy his size, and he isn't 6'4" like everyone thought. He's 6'2", but still, this is another one of those situations where maybe after he makes this guy miss, I'd like to see him try to run down the sideline here instead of seeking out that safety and trying to put a move on him again. But yeah, you could see the release here. Crosses this guy's face pretty quickly. Uses his hands well to keep his arms away from his frame. Snaps down. Makes the catch, pirouettes. Like, that's all good stuff. He just isn't consistently that solid, I think. And now, here comes the big thing. He wouldn't need to be that great of a route runner if he was actually the 6'4" dominant ball winner that he is getting billed as. He is not that strong at the catch point. The most common criticism you see about Johnston is that he's a body catcher. He doesn't play as long and as tall as he is, and I think that all of those things are valid. On this play, this is a contested catch situation. The safety's nailing down on him, but he's in front of the safety. He can box him out, rise up. He's got first dibs on this ball if he attacks it at the highest point, but he doesn't do that. He's trying to run under it. He's trying to have this thing land right in the breadbasket instead of doing what the safety does, which is actually jumping up and attacking this thing. That's not what Johnston does. And actually the safety basically wins this ball and just drops it on the way down. Similar deal here at the bottom of the screen. This is a long bomb. And this ball from Duggan is going to land at about the 10-yard line. I think that Johnston has plenty of room to track this thing, get in position, start boxing out now, backing up, and trying to high point this thing. Is it a difficult catch? Yes. Does it probably not get made? Yes, but I'd like to see the technique there. Instead, Johnston keeps running like he's just going to run under this thing and keep running when he catches it, and it's just going to teleport through the safety somehow. But there's a safety there. Like, you're going to have to win this ball at the point of attack. It's a true 50-50 ball that Johnston gives no chance because he doesn't rise up for it. And the safety does, and he picks it off. Having a 40-inch vertical means nothing if you don't use it when you need to use it. On this play, if he brings his arms above his head, this is a big play. But instead, he's trying to get this thing to fall right into his chest. That gives Brents a chance to get his hand in there and break this thing up. And yeah, maybe this is like, you could probably make the argument that this is defensive pass interference because he got here early, but I don't think it got called. And he could have removed all doubt if he actually just went up and caught this thing instead of letting it fall into his chest again. Quentin Johnston has a 33% contested catch rate. That is very low. Johnston only caught a hair over 50% of his targets that came 5 or more yards down the field. He only caught a hair over 80% of his accurate targets that came 5 or more yards down the field. That is way below a lot of the other guys. Jalen Hyatt, way higher. Zay Flowers, way higher. Josh Downs, way higher when it comes to on-target catch rate. I think that if Johnston gets like overdrafted, if he's the first guy off the board, people are going to be very frustrated with him early in his career because he's just not a super refined route runner yet, and he deals with all these drops. There is a lot of promise. He is athletic. He does show some good things as a route runner. I think he's better closer to the line of scrimmage with his releases. I think he's a lot more clean there than trying to create separation down the field. He's talented, but the two words that come to mind for me the most when I watch him is frustrating and inconsistent. And I'm not sure that I would risk a day one pick on Johnston. There's a category in the grading scale that Lancer Line and NFL.com uses that is for prospects who may be talented but lacking in desired NFL traits, or a player who has good NFL traits but is still in need of more skill development. These may make it to a second contract and should become starters fairly early. I think that is a pretty good way to describe Quentin Johnston. That is a second round grade, and that's where I fall with him. Like later in the second round is probably where I would take him. So that concludes my scouting report on Quentin Johnston. Again, I recognize that he has a lot of talent, a lot of potential, but the chance that he busts is just a bit too high for me. Like, we are dealing with a contested catch artist who is not that good at catching the football. I would stay away. And you guys, I might be stupid. I might be an idiot. I might have to take an L on this. It is very, very possible, but I'm more of a JSN wide receiver one guy. I also think Addison is a little bit better than Johnston, even though those guys are not quite as athletic. They don't check quite as many boxes maybe when it comes to high-end superstar talent, but I just think they'll be better players in the pros, and it's as simple as that. So if you disagree with me, feel free to say why in the comments, but thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next week with another video.